Welcome back, strangers. Child's Play comes out this weekend, and it's a remake of the 1988 film of the same name. It's supposed to be a modern retelling of Chucky, a doll who's possessed by the soul of a serial killer. The new movie doesn't have any involvement from the original franchise creator, Don Mancini, or voice actor Brad Dourif, but there is a planned television series based on the original film series involving Mancini, coming in 2020 on the Sci-Fi Channel. With all the Chucky news, we decided this would be a good time to discuss the untold story behind the original Child's Play movie. The first draft of the script was completed in the summer of 1985. The original working title for the movie was Batteries Not Included, before it was changed because Steven Spielberg was making a film of the same name. The title was changed to Blood Buddy, before finally becoming Child's Play. In the early script, Chucky is known as Buddy and comes to life after mixing blood with Andy, forming a blood pact. The film was meant to be more of a psychologically driven horror film. The doll initially represented Andy's loneliness and isolation from an overworked mother and absent father. Buddy originally only came alive when Andy was asleep. In this draft, Andy was a very strange and creepy kid that had a lot of anger issues, who develops an unhealthy attachment to the doll. At first, it's ambiguous as to whether the doll is doing Andy's bidding by killing those against Andy, such as his babysitter, dentist, and teacher. In this draft, the doll was not supposed to be the reincarnation of Charles Lee Ray. Chucky's full name, Charles Lee Ray, was derived from three infamous killers: Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated John F. Kennedy, and James Earl Ray, who assassinated Martin Luther King Jr. Child's Play was released on the same day, November 9th, 1988, as the opening scene in the movie, where Charles Lee Ray transfers his soul into the doll. Director Tom Holland, not that one, originally wanted Charles Lee Ray to be Andy's father. Many people claim Chucky was inspired by Robert the Doll, a real-life cursed doll that's on display in Key West, Florida. However, original director Tom Holland recently tweeted that he had never heard of this doll when they were making Child's Play. Sometimes art just naturally imitates life. Writer Don Mancini was initially inspired by the Living Doll episode of The Twilight Zone about a menacing girl doll who kills her abusive owner. Don stated that around 50% of the finished film retains the concepts of his original script. New elements introduced by other writers and the director include the voodoo mythology angle and the character of Eddie Caputo. Don Mancini and John Lafia were eventually barred from the set after threatening to sue Tom Holland over a writing credit dispute. The working title, Blood Buddy, was inspired by Hasbro's My Buddy toy doll, which was also dressed in denim overalls and a striped shirt. Effect designer Kevin Yeager based the designs of Chucky off the life-sized baby infant dolls My Buddy and Raggedy Ann, and combined them with Don Mancini's description of the killer doll in the original script. One of the inspirations for the good guy doll was the interactive doll Corky. Corky's voice actor, Eden Gross, was even used as Chucky's normal voice. The Chucky films have always been accused of inspiring violence in children, after at least 2 real copycat murders claimed to have been inspired by the film. In 1992, Suzanne Capper was tortured by 4 people connected to a gang in Manchester. The gang leader reportedly forced her to listen to recordings of him repeating the catchphrase,
"Hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play?"
to taunt poor Suzanne. Director Tom Holland has repeatedly defended the film, saying that viewers of horror movies can only be influenced by their content if they were unbalanced to begin with. What do you think? Can media have a negative effect on those consuming it, causing them to act out horrific acts of violence in real life? Crowds of protesters formed around the entrance of MGM Studios during the release of the movie, calling for the studio to ban the film out of fear that it would incite violence in children. After all the backlash from the movie, MGM and United Artists sold the sequel rights to Child's Play to Universal Studios. Brad Dourif was almost not the voice of Chucky. When the movie was first announced, it was rumored that John Lithgow was being considered to play the voice of the killer doll. Brad was the first to be brought in for the voice of Chucky, but when it came time to do the voice work, he was busy with another film. They replaced him with 2 different people who couldn't make Chucky sound threatening. Instead, they reportedly made him sound more funny. Luckily, test audiences hated the 2 replacements, and Brad was brought back in. All of Brad Dourif's initial voice work for Chucky was recorded in advance so they could match up Chucky's mouth with the words. All of Brad's voice recordings would be played back on set for Alex Vincent to act to. Sometimes, Brad would act out the scenes with the actors before they filmed certain scenes, but he rarely actually appeared on set during the doll sequences. Chucky was portrayed by a combination of radio-controlled animatronics, little people, and child actors depending on the scene. This was to help create Chucky's cosmetic transition from looking mostly toy-like to a more human look by the end of the film. Special effects supervisor Kevin Yeager had the crew create multiple Chucky animatronics for different shots, such as walking Chucky, stationary Chucky, and a flailing temper tantrum Chucky. The animatronic Chuckies were controlled by a remote control rig that went over the user's face to capture facial movements of the user. Simon Stokes and Joe Renzetti composed an original song to specifically play during the end credits of Child's Play. However, the end theme song about Chucky wasn't used because studio executives thought it made Chucky seem less scary. The song was only used in one of the trailers for the movie. If you can't get enough of Chucky, Child's Play was adapted several times into comic books. From 1990 to 1992, the first 3 films were adapted into a comic book series, with a movie being adapted again in 2007. Have you ever read the comics? The reboot of Child's Play will be the first time Chucky has been voiced by someone other than Brad Dourif, with Mark Hamill taking over as the voice of the murderous doll. When Don and David Kirshner first spoke about doing a darker and scarier reboot of the original film, they believed no one else but Brad would fit the part. The original plan for the reboot was for it to be more like the very first draft of the script for Child's Play, which gets me excited to see the new version with Mark Hamill voicing Chucky. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint, like most remakes and reboots that Hollywood churns out, just to milk all that fan nostalgia from a franchise in order to make a quick buck. Thanks strangers for watching. What's your favorite Chucky movie? And do you plan on seeing the Child's Play reboot? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, stay strange.